Hello and welcome to another Tech Campus Coffee Live webinar. This is an opportunity for you to learn about career paths at Tech directly from professionals in your field.
We'll be speaking to technical representatives from a variety of fields at Tech, and they'll share why they enjoy what they do.
Participants also have a chance to directly ask speakers and recruiters questions and get a good understanding of why Tech is a great place to work, as well as where your strengths, talents, and learning opportunities lie.
So we'll start with Connor. So Connor, if you could maybe do a quick intro of yourself and tell us a little bit about what your current role is with Tech.
Sure, yeah. So my name's Connor Kolchiski. Currently environmental coordinator at Tech's Highland Valley Copper operations. Been in this role at HVC for just about just a little over 5 months now, so still relatively fresh. But basically, a lot of my responsibility revolves around water quality and the permitting that goes along with that at HVC. So, we have requirements under our Mines Act permit, our Environmental Management Act permit to implement certain environmental monitoring programs. So that includes surface water monitoring, groundwater monitoring, as well as metal leaching and acid rock drainage monitoring. So my kind of primary role is to kind of oversee the implementation of those programs. So working with our field technicians to make sure things are being complete, samples are being collected, and a lot of the technical work that goes along with that. So data review, working with that data in our data management software, and sort of getting that out to our consultants, qualified professionals for annual reporting. Also kind of going along with that is the regulatory and community engagement work that comes from those plans and those permit requirements, and then also to kind of support operational compliance. So with our Environmental Management Act permit, specifically our effluent permit, we have a lot of questions come up in operations about what we can or can't do in regards to that permit and making sure we sort of stay in compliance. So I get a lot of questions that come in from that, which keeps things interesting, brings a bit of variety, depending on what may come up in operations, whether it's questions about they can or can't discharge something, or where can they take something, and working with them on that. So definitely a lot of variety. There is certainly for myself opportunity to help out with other projects that may not be related to water quality as well. That's just sort of a time permitting thing, which these days isn't there isn't a lot of spare time, but there's certainly no shortage of those opportunities within our environmental department. So yeah, good variety. That's pretty much what I do on a day-to-day basis.
That's awesome, Connor. Yeah, it sounds like they might just keep you a little bit busy, hey?
Yeah, things are definitely busy these days.
That's awesome. Great. And then I would like to pass it over to Lee for an intro. So Lee works with our coal business unit. So maybe Lee, if you could do a quick intro of yourself and what your role entails.
Yeah, you bet. Hi, everybody. My name is Lee Stickney. I'm currently the senior water management lead at Green Hills. It's great that they had a video with Kate, because that is my site that I'm currently at, and I did work with Kate a little bit on a few projects. So cool to see her again. Basically, I used to do what Connor did, and now my role has been created to kind of transition the way we think into a more of a forward-looking and sustainability type of role. My role is right now is all about sustainability and risk reduction at site, basically. So I deal with a lot of water supply issues and concerns. I do use a lot of cool softwares and digital platforms to model where water should be going or where it could be going, and where we use water on site, that sort of thing. Look for opportunities for conservation and reuse of water. And as we're really moving into a cool place in terms of, as Misaki mentioned, using Race 21 and leveraging technology to make real-time management decisions and monitoring. So I implement a lot of monitoring programs that, one, improve our water balance and understanding of where water is moving, and two, to make real-time management decisions as well. So I'm also responsible for quite a bit of infrastructure. So there's a lot of historical infrastructure at mines that is usually not up to current standards or codes. So part of my role is to continuously assess that type of infrastructure and bring it up to standard, and work with engineers and hydrologists to redesign and rebuild some of the infrastructure. And there's also great ideas in terms of innovation, and is getting away from that old infrastructure. Can we come up with new treatment opportunities for just removal of sediments and solids from water, rather than using a historical settling pond, for example? So there's lots of opportunity for a great idea and that sort of thing. And then in terms of risk reduction, I use the modeling of water to say, okay, well, we have a really important structure here, or a really high consequence dam. What will happen in a 1 in 200 years flood event, for example, and is it a risk to sites? Is it a risk to the neighboring towns and the aquatic ecosystems around the site? So, and then take action on that. So that's really the gist of my current role. I've been with Teck for about 10 years. I've had a number of roles, including research and development, as well as kind of regional monitoring, where I coordinate a massive monitoring program all over the Elk Valley, to understand impacts to mining, and get that assessment complete, so that we can at least mitigate or understand what the impacts might be. So the saying goes, you can't manage what you don't measure. So lots of measurement and lots of management.
That's awesome. Thanks, Lee. That's really interesting too. Great. Well, I guess maybe I see some stuff in the chat. So I think maybe a good place to start for us, and especially Connor, you're so new to the company. I guess, so often you hear, like, from people who come in from an environmental science background, maybe their first pick when they went into the program wasn't like, I'm going to work for mining. And I often talk to students a lot about, like, how many opportunities there are, and you can really make an impact within the company. There's so much really cool projects happening and really innovative ways that we're working. So I guess, Connor, to start with you, why did you move into mining, and why Teck, I guess? What was the sort of impetus to apply here and come on board with us?
So I'll be honest, I didn't really think about it a whole ton as I was going through school in terms of, a specific industry. I actually ended up applying on a co-op position at Highland Valley Copper. I guess it would have been probably about third year in the assay lab. So my background in schooling was environmental chemistry. So applied on that position, didn't get it, but at the time HVC was also doing sort of a separate student, like summer student position. So I was offered one of those, and got to work in the mine operations department. So that really enabled me to, I was driving all over site every day, a bunch of different tasks, but that kind of kick-started my interest in that mining field. And linking that back to my schooling, how sort of environmental management, how big of a part that is in mining, and that definitely kickstarted my interest. So there was a lot of years in between that I wasn't working in a mining field, but ultimately really wanted to get back there. So it took about 7 to 9 years, I guess, to get back into it. But yeah, it's been great. So
great. And how about for you, Lee? What brought you to the mining world, and how did you get on board with us, Teck?
Well, I was kind of born into it. I grew up in the Elk Valley. I was raised here. My father worked for one of the mines here, and I ended up having a co-op a couple summer student years anyway, working for the mine. Pretty awesome, actually, like fishing for bull trout all day with bacon and throwing bombs out of helicopters onto avalanches. Like, it was the best. So, and anyways, I went off to university. Ended up at UBC and UVic. I did a master's in biochemistry, which I didn't think I'd ever be able to come back here. But then, tech started becoming more innovative and looking for people who understand chemistry and water quality and that sort of thing. So that was a great opportunity for me to come home. And here I am, still here. And
awesome.
now I have a family here, and I really want to preserve this area for them to continue fishing with me and riding their bike and just been really enjoying the outdoors.
Yeah, I know. I say that a lot to people. It's like we all, we have some really great, obviously, sustainability policies and environmental policies in terms of what we want to do, and we want to do what's right as a company. But that all of us as employees here, we all live in the areas where our operations are located. And so we all have a vested interest really to protect the area. So we want to make responsible choices and feel good about the company we work for. And certainly that's always been the case since I've been working here for the last 14 years too. So I'm drinking water at the tap, you want to know that it's all good and clean. So it's neat to see a company that's doing all the right things. Great. So, Lee, just toss it back to you one more. Sorry, I want to make sure we get through all the questions. So how about I'll start with Connor, because there's one here for you in particular, Connor. Someone's asked, do you also work on emergency actions if some pollutant goes over the limits? Is that sort of in your scope of your current role?
Yeah, absolutely. That's I saw that one come through. So that's right. We've got, we have specific compliance concentrations at discharge points that we have to meet. So if we ever go over those, we have to report those non-compliances to regulators, and we also send that out to our local communities and different contacts. So yes, that's also a responsibility in terms of water quality and also quantity. Certain discharge points we aren't able to discharge over a certain volume, so just keeping track of that and certainly reporting if we ever exceed those.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, Lee, the next one, I'm going to talk about the recruitment part at the very end. So just if I skip your question right now, Vanessa, I'll circle back, I promise. But Lee, I guess I'm curious, you had talked a little bit about some of the technologies you're using, some of the digital platforms and modeling. So, and someone's asked a little question about it. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the programs you're using and maybe anything that you would recommend to students in terms of if it would give them a bit of a leg up or programs that maybe would be useful for them to get exposure to?
Yeah, it's tough when it comes to software. There's so many options out there, right? And I don't think you'll as soon as you get a job, you'll be exposed to them right off the hop. But understanding the concepts, I think, of modeling, for example, and understanding what flow times concentration plus another inflow times concentration equates to, right? Just understanding what that looks like. And we use a digital platform called GoldSim to do our modeling. It's somewhat user friendly. There's right from spreadsheets to a video game, and this is kind of in between. So if you can, lots of these big companies of digital platforms have YouTube channels. A lot of times you can go into and learn a lot from those types of things.
Okay, great. All right, perfect. All right, someone's asked here that they're very interested in biodiversity and closure co-op. So they're wondering if there's a position available. Sorry, I'm just reading as I'm flying here, and so I can talk to that. There are some opportunities in the bio group for our shared services coming up in the May term. So yes, certainly there is. They all sort of fall under the one environmental posting that you'll see on our website right now. It's actually posted until tomorrow. So if you haven't applied yet, get it in there. And yeah, we'll be going through. There's some positions in a variety of areas, but that is definitely one of them, the biodiversity group. All right, more recruiting ones. Sorry, just bear with me while I'm shooting through these.
Hey, just to add to that biodiversity position, so it's a newer position. It's created last year. The student's been very happy. That student has now since moved on to a site-based role. So she was based out of Vancouver for that position, and she's now working. She's extended with us in a different role at site, so environmental field role. And so this role is going to be ongoing, it looks like, and it sounds like there's the potential to work in this role from different locations. So there's different options for different individuals.
Yeah, there's the one in Vancouver with that team, and then there's also some in the Valley too with our biodiversity team. So yeah, different opportunities across the business for sure. Great. All right. Somebody's asked here about working in health and safety, and for summer student positions. So I guess maybe let's just transition a little bit over what a student does on a co-op or a summer opportunity with us. Like Lee, you sort of alluded to a little bit about your experience. It might be a little different for a student these days, but if we could talk a little bit, I know Lee, you've had lots of co-ops over the years. Could you talk to us a little bit about the kind of work co-ops get to do and just sort of the experience they come away with when they've worked here at Tech?
Yeah, you bet. It really depends on the co-op, and what they're interested in. I really like to sit and talk with them, make sure they are given an opportunity to dig into whatever is interesting to them. If you like to go outside, great, because there's lots of that. You can go out and snowmobile or drive around side by sides, fly drones, do survey work. There's tons of cool things to kind of round out your practical experience in that regard. I almost always try to get my co-ops like a really cool kind of their own project that they can take and run. It's not too difficult, but we'll challenge them and support them along the way. I've had a couple of co-ops work on some water recycling plants, so some clarifying plants that recycle water out of a steam bay that's filthy black, and then takes it and cleans it right up and puts it back into use. I've had a co-op who has helped me construct or test a brand new technology for the removal of selenium and nitrate from water, but the use of zero valent iron that, basically through the corrosion process removes all of the selenium and other constituents, and that's lots of metals as well in the watershed. So really cool project for them to go out and construct all these systems and do the monitoring on it and be a part of the report writing too. So
awesome, that's great. Yeah, they definitely get a lot of, for most of the roles anyway, they get lots of field experience. And I've got Ella here on the line. So she's a current co-op with us. So Ella works with our environmental and social responsibility team. So it's sort of like a centralized group that sort of supports the operations and a few initiatives. And Ella, maybe if you could introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about your current role with as a co-op with Tech.
Yeah, absolutely. So I studied chemistry and environmental science at UBC. I was really interested in pursuing maybe a master's in engineering after. So I don't know, I just thought Tech would be an amazing place to kind of, combine my current chemistry knowledge and see if this is maybe a direction I wanted to go in. I kind of do a lot of similar to what Connor was saying, but obviously like the co-op version. So with those permits that we get and that sort of thing, if we have amendments to them or new water licenses and that sort of thing, we'll get them, and then I'll read through them with my supervisor. We'll go through all the commitments, like we're going to sample at this site this many times a week and that sort of thing. And we'll assign those tasks to different people like technicians, so they can make sure we're doing the sampling and pretty much just making sure we stay in compliance, and then in doing so kind of meet our environment and sustainability initiatives. So that has been really great. And then my kind of project, like Lee was saying, he kind of gives his co-ops and projects. So my supervisor kind of tasked me with creating computer-based training modules for our team. So someone had a question just about that environmental emergency response, like when we have an incident on site, kind of who takes care of that. And so part of my team's job is making sure that everyone on site is trained and knows how to respond when concentrations of different constituents just get too high and alarms go off and that sort of thing. And so I've been working on, they gave me access to a really cool program. It was very fun to work with, to just create training videos, and gotten to work with so many cool people just as they've reviewed those videos. And yeah, it's just been an awesome opportunity to meet people. And I guess the only other thing with that has been getting to actually do some of the on the ground kind of work. So I got to do some water sampling, and it's been great. I mean, if you guys study chemistry or environmental science or anything like that, like to know where those numbers come from, like how do they measure these concentrations in real life, has just been like, I still nerd out every time I go, and yeah, so fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's good. I'm glad. So yeah, so I guess in terms for what you were hoping to get out of this co-op, what's been sort of the big takeaway for you so far? I know you've been here for a few months and you're going to be continuing for a few months more. Is there something that you're like just excited to come to work every day to do? Or what's the big one for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with my degree, it was very much focused on climate change. So I think initially coming here was like, oh, working for a mining company, maybe that won't fulfill my deep desires to save the earth. But honestly, like working for water quality, like I I can genuinely say, like, I come to work every day being like, wow, we're really like helping the water in the valley. And just we had like our year-end meeting, and they went through like just for all of water quality management in the valley, like what objectives they obtained this year, and just be part of something that huge and to really make a difference is just so rewarding.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Ella. Thanks. That's a great share. Great. All right. And then Connor, I guess I'm kind of interested, you're so fresh to tech. I mean, in terms of coming back since your previous experience, what gets you excited about the next few years at Tech? Is there anything that's happening or initiative that we're putting in place that makes you really excited or gets you sort of, I guess want to sink your teeth into for the next couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I think just overall sort of water quality and sustainability is just going to become, more and more important over the years. I think we're already seeing that. So, just knowing that there's going to be, more cool and exciting projects and sort of increased work in that area is pretty exciting to see. And then, just some of the technology that goes along with that. We're working with new data management software to just to sort, compile, organize all our water quality data and utilizing those sort of new technologies in different ways. Whether that be sort of screening our water quality data as soon as it comes in and sending off flags as we receive it, or even working towards some sort of live water quality tracking. So yeah, just definitely some cool things to come there.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. All right, I want to make sure I get through some of these questions here in the chat. And another recruiting one, which I'll circle back to later. Someone's asked a little bit about their first-year engineering student at UVic. They're wondering about what sort of sustainability practice does Tech apply to its work regarding limiting air, water, and land pollution, reducing carbon emissions, and ensuring that the ecosystem is minimally impacted is a big one. Who wants to take that? Lee, are you feeling crazy?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a really big question, but it's that is the core question around our jobs, really.
Yeah.
I can't say enough. Connor mentioned, that Tech has taken a new perspective on sustainability, and I'm not going to say it's the pocketbook's open, but we put a lot of funding to some really cool projects, and the sky's the limit if you have an answer or an idea. So we've got some world-class water treatment that's cleaning up the entire watershed. We have some phenomenal sustainability ideas in terms of reuse and swapping water, like prioritizing the use of clean water in creeks and dirty water or mine contact water, in industrial processes. We've just transitioned to a huge network of real-time air quality monitoring all over the Elk Valley, and creating models out of that so that we can predict when we're going to have issues with water or air quality in terms of receptors in terms of in towns and that sort of thing, when we should have blasts, for example, so that the dust from that activity doesn't travel the wrong direction. So I think the technology side is really coming along quickly, and it's making a big difference already.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know. And one of the numbers that's been thrown around when you talk about water treatment, even like I know that's the other side of it, but we've spent over $1 billion already as a company in terms of water treatment, which is those numbers kind of blow your mind. I know in mining the numbers are always huge, but it's pretty neat to see the commitment that the company's made to doing the right thing there. So that's really cool.
Not just the money, but the technology. We're creating new technologies to deal with these issues that could be applied all over the world. So.
Yeah.
And I think just with that, the people as well, like something they bring up quite often on our team is that our facilities or I guess our team has grown from 2 people a few years ago to almost 200 people. And so just like the opportunities and the innovation just is like going crazy. It's really cool to be part of.
It gets you pretty excited about it for sure. Great. All right, Connor, I'm going to task you with the next technical question. And this sort of talks to what we were sort of speaking about, but what are the biggest challenges you are now facing regarding water management? So maybe you could speak to some of the specific challenges HVC? I know it's also a loaded one.
Yeah, I mean, Lee's probably better suited to talk about water management in terms of quantity. But I know, myself working with our water kind of quantity and water management team closely as well. Obviously, just looking around the province this year with some of the emergencies we've had in terms of weather and, in the interior of BC, pretty severe drought conditions this summer. And then, a couple months later going to some pretty extreme flooding. So just, pretty large extremes in terms of water quantity. In terms of quality, I wouldn't say there's very specific emerging issues there in terms of HVC, other than guidelines and stuff are continually changing. Seem to be getting, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, getting more strict. And so just how we balance and work toward meeting those sorts of regulatory guidelines in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. That's great. All right. Someone's asked a little bit about automation. I'm not sure if anyone's had some exposure. Lee, I know you've done a little bit on the digital space. Do you know much about the automation side of things? Someone's asked if they were a mechatronics student, and they're curious to know what extent automation can be used in environmental engineering.
Yeah, it's growing quickly. At this point now, it's awesome. I can sit at my desktop and see what pond levels are everywhere on my site. I can see what's flowing, what's being pumped right from my desktop, which is phenomenal. The challenge right now is a lot of that data sits in multiple platforms. So what we're looking to do is leverage this Race 21 initiative to bring all of that data into one kind of central location and call it a water management dashboard, so to speak, so that we can make real-time decisions, management decisions any given time. So
great, that's awesome. All right, I'm mindful of time, Masaki. I think, do we have time maybe for one more question?
Sure.
Okay, and then we'll go into the trivia. I just want to make sure we don't lose out there. What someone's asked about the carbon neutral. So how does tech plan to be carbon neutral? So we obviously have some ambitious targets set for us to become carbon neutral as a company. And then how does it plan to invest in oil and gas field in the future? That's a $1 million question. I don't know if we can speak to the oil and gas side of it today, but I certainly, maybe if you guys could talk a little bit about the carbon neutral initiative and maybe some of the projects you've been exposed to. Maybe Connor, in your 5 months, have you had much exposure to some of the plans at HVC, Highland Valley Copper?
I'll be honest, I haven't really. We do have a specific position in our environmental department that is related to that. Unfortunately haven't been able to touch base with him much, but I'm not sure if maybe Lee is able to provide any insight on that.
Yeah, it's a challenging question and a challenging scenario to try and get to there, but there are a number of initiatives, and really you look at the biggest carbon emitters, and there are initiatives to go to a carbon neutral or zero emission haul trucks, for example, which is pretty neat. We use a lot of electricity in our pits now instead of we use electricity as much as possible instead of diesel fuel, for example. We're looking at water runs downhill and flows all day, every day. So we're looking at leveraging that to try and generate electricity as well. A number of initiatives. There's Ideas at Work program where we just throw it out to the whole workforce and say, hey, what's your best idea? And we've had a ton of great just initiatives to reduce energy consumption, and we give them prizes when if someone comes up with a great idea. It could be as simple as just turning down the temperature in the shop, or closing the doors, filling leaks on the compressors, that sort of thing, right? Just little things that are moving us along toward getting there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it was a neat project with like some of our transportation, like our buses that get employees back and forth to work. We've got some electric buses as well, and different initiatives that we have there. Connor, did you want to make a comment? Sorry.
No, I was just going to add to that. Working on site, 10 or 11 years apart, just seeing some of the differences there too. Like one of the big things, back in 2010 when I was working there was, you know, even just leaving trucks running, like light vehicle trucks, you know, in and out of your vehicle all day. More often than not, you just leave it running, leave the keys in it. You know, easier, I guess, in case somebody else needs to take the truck as well. But that's a big no-no now. So, you know, we really try and prevent idling vehicles. Obviously, in the winter, it's a little bit different. You know, you've got to get your truck warmed up. But yeah, just seeing the changes in a, you know, a 10-year span, which, you know, in some senses is long, but also, you know, fairly short term. So
Yeah, that's great. I think we've covered most of the technical questions. From a recruitment standpoint, I'll sort of, hopefully this will cover most of the questions that had come up. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, we currently have our co-op postings. So we're currently recruiting for the May co-op term. And those postings are up on the website right now. They'll post it till tomorrow. There's going to be a few that are going to be extending, or if some late requests come through, which inevitably happens, we may repost some in the next little while. So certainly keep an eye on the website. But definitely there's quite a plethora of opportunities right now on the tech website. So you can just go tech.com/careers or look up the student opportunities there, and you'll see the big list of different opportunities. And like I mentioned, obviously the environmental one, we've got at least 15 roles, I believe it is, for the coal business unit alone. So there's certainly lots. And every 4 months we're recruiting for co-ops. So we usually have about 8-month duration to 12-month duration for our co-ops, and every 4 months you'll see us start posting again. So we have some revolving sort of co-op roles that we're constantly recruiting for. We have a huge program. Last year across the business, we hired over 230 co-ops across all of Tech Resources, and a good chunk of those are in the coal business unit. So, and for us, you know, something to think about, and, you know, you can hear from what Lee and Connor had sort of alluded to, the big purpose of our co-op program is to certainly build talent pools for future opportunities. So that's how we scoop the Connors and the Lees, get them in for a summer student or a co-op opportunity, and then, you know, with the potential of making an impression and then coming back to join the company full time down the road. So it's a really great avenue for us to build those pools. If you're looking for something from a new graduate perspective, you know, I know there's a couple specific questions in the chat. It's tough for me to speak exactly on if there's a geochemistry and those roles. I guess what I would suggest is keep it on the website. There is a ton of recruitment activity right now across the business. So there's quite a variety of roles. The one thing I often share with people is something to keep in mind is that it may not just be called environmental science, or it may have like a different title. So you can set yourself up for job alerts with our website. And so if a job comes up that's highlighting geochemistry, for example, or different areas, then you'll get pinged for that opportunity so that you're aware that's been posted, because it is, we post new jobs every single day, so it is tough as a person on the hunt to really keep up on every role that comes up. And I would suggest doing your research too, because we have such a variety of roles. There's lots of different little pockets of areas that we hire: environmental science. So certainly just keep an eye on the website and do a little bit of research so you can understand, like, hey, this is an area that was really interesting for me. Whether, you know, when Connor mentioned there's someone that focuses on a role that's just focused on that carbon neutral objective that we have, and there's others that are focused in water treatment, and then there's, you know, there's lots of different areas. So certainly keep an eye on the website. And from an environmental perspective, yeah, there's lots of opportunity. We've got lots of great, exciting things in the future. So certainly it's a great opportunity. Co-op. Any other questions that I'm missing, Misaki, that I know around the co-op, the recruitment space? I think I have them all.
Yeah, there was, I don't think distinguish too much between the summer program and co-op, and the other is support finding accommodations.
Great. Okay, perfect. Thanks. So yeah, we do have two programs. So we sort of alluded to both of them. So a co-op, again, longer duration, 8, 12, up to 16 months. We can hire co-op students. Summer students, coal, Highland Valley Copper, and Trail all have summer student opportunities, and you'll see those posted on the website as well. And those are in a variety of different areas. So some are similar to what Connor alluded to, like more operational support. And then we also have ones that are specifically environmental, and then we have some that are, you know, engineering based, that sort of thing. So keep an eye out on those. I know right now I have like some that are for water technicians, for example. So there's quite a variety. Again, those are posted usually in January, and those are to be filled for May. So keep it on the website. I know coals are up, and I think, I'm not sure if I've seen the copper ones yet, but I think they're coming in the next little while. So if you're interested in Highland Valley Copper, yeah, certainly keep an eye on the website for that. For co-op, we do assist getting people here. So, and I'm sure like Ella could speak to this as well, but basically once you secure a co-op position with the company, what we'll do is your salary is based on how many academic terms you completed, as well as any co-op terms you've previously completed, so that we have a bit of a band that we work within. And then what we do, we also pay for your travel here at the beginning of your co-op term. So if you're required to be at site, which our positions are required to be at the operations or at the office at least, we'll pay for your travel here, and then we'll pay for your travel home at the end of your term. In addition to that, we put $500 on your first paycheck if you're required to relocate, and that just gives you a sort of a covers any incidentals that would have occurred through travel, or a bit of settling in allowance, I guess, is another way to kind of look at it. Yeah, and then relocation for the Cole Business Unit, because we do bring on so many students, we certainly support you through those efforts to find accommodation. So we don't provide them. Unfortunately, we don't have that ability, but we certainly support you. So we'll give you, I get all the students permission to sort of give them a big email with all the available accommodations that I'm aware of, because people know we hire students every 4 months. So I pass that along to students in addition to making them aware of like different places that people generally post locally and that sort of thing, so that, and then they can get in touch with each other and also current co-ops to be able to secure roommates and all that good stuff. So we really provide quite a bit of support to make sure it's a successful transition. Awesome. And Maria, I think you have a question.
Yes, first, thank you for the chat, very interesting. I'm just wondering about the general requirements of the co-op or the summer positions, if they're available for current master candidates. I'm a master's student, but my program does have an internship component. So I'm just wondering if I would be eligible.
For sure, yeah. So for co-op, yep, we don't have to be like a quote unquote co-op student, as long as you're returning to school is sort of our preference. And so yeah, then it's the biggest thing is the length of term you're available. We definitely lean towards that 8 to 12 month term. So if you're available for that length, for summer students, we tend to focus on the undergraduate group and just to be able to get them some experience. So if you're in a post grad, then we usually give that secondary consideration. So if we can't find someone in an undergrad role that can fill the role, then we'd look to someone who's in a like a post grad diploma program.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks. Any other questions, or do we cover it? Someone's asked for a timeline. So timeline for summer recruitment, boy, I'd love to say it gets done real fast, but looks like we're going to have over 80 roles as a group for just the May alone, and then summer on top of that. So we've started recruitment, but we're just easing into it this week and a little bit last week, and so it'll be continuing truthfully until mid-March, but we're hoping to we're trying to do it a discipline at a time. So environment, we're certainly starting to dive into already, and that'll be happening over the next few weeks. We'll be recruiting for the environmental space.
All right, so Stacey and I are able to stick around a little bit longer to answer any remaining questions, but I just want to take, I know we're at time here, so I just want to take the opportunity to thank Connor and Lee and Ella and everybody else for supporting Campus Coffee. Thank you all the students for joining. We hope you've learned something today, and hopefully you're more interested in careers in environmental science. Going to post a link to a feedback survey, because our goal is to provide value to you and other students. And so if you can let us know how we did, and if there's any particular topics you want to hear about in the future, we're more than happy to create other more tailored campus coffees. So yeah, anyway, so thank you all for joining. And if you have to drop off, feel free to drop off. But yeah, we'll stick around for a little bit longer to answer some of the other questions. And I see Xavier has asked about civil and environmental engineer and mechanical engineering roles. And what I might suggest you do is, if you go to the Campus Coffee website, we now have at least 20 recordings, and we have at least 2 sessions on mechanical, if not 3, and there'll be more going up, and we're adding more. So so yeah, take a look at those, and there's going to be lots of content specifically to civil, environmental engineering, as well as mechanical engineering. Yeah, encourage you to get straight from our engineers. Let's see if other questions we've missed here.
Most of them.
I think we covered them all. Yeah, last call for questions before we jump off. It's a busy chat. I'm struggling to find if there's any questions we haven't answered.
I know I'm trying to make sure we haven't missed anybody. Yeah, and I appreciate the engagement. Thanks you guys for putting lots of questions in there and asking the technical reps. I think it's so great to make sure we target the information you guys want to hear about. So I'm really happy that everyone was willing to pitch in today. Sometimes I'm just pulling stuff out of my pockets here, so I appreciate the support.
Yeah, I think Emily, the second part of your question about vehicle, and I think at site and yeah, it's quite valuable to have your own vehicle in the Elk Valley or any of the sites actually. So you'll definitely enjoy your time there more.
It makes it easier to get around for sure. There's no public transportation, but if you're required to travel like through work, then we certainly would provide you with something to use, like if you had to get out to site to do sampling, or even from shared services up to operations. But yeah, obviously on your spare time, it leaves some space for some adventuring if you've got your own vehicle for the weekends.
Great. Well, should we wrap this one up?
Let's call it. All right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, you guys.
Hopefully see you next week at the next Campus Coffee Lab webinar.
Take care.